Okay, kids, today we're going to figure out the equation of a circle and where it comes from. So the plan today is to figure out the equation, use that to graph a few things, and then go ahead and figure out how to write the equation of a circle. But let's start out with, let's say, a center at, we'll say 3, 4. Okay, and then we'll say a point on the circle is going to be xy. So if I go to 3, 4, I'll have the center, and some point, I don't care where it is, I'm just going to go out here. We're going to call that xy. So if I'm going through and I have that point xy and this point 3, 4, what I can do is I can find the distance between these points. Now, basically, I need to use the distance formula, which in this case is d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So if I'm plugging these points in, okay, so I have the center and I have this one right here. I'm going to say this is x2, y2. This will be the point x1, y1. Now I get this. Distance equals the square root of x minus 3 squared plus y minus 4 squared. Now this distance right here can also be referred to as the radius. So if I replace d with r, and I get this, what I can do to get rid of the square root is square both sides. So I get this, r squared equals x minus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared. And what this is the equation of the circle. Now I don't have a number for r squared, but what I can do is I know that I do have a circle, so I could just think about this circle right here and placing it right here. Let's see, kind of make it a little bit bigger. So if I make it a little bit bigger, suddenly what I get is this circle with a radius and a center. And what I can also do is I can move this radius over here, the radius over here. So that distance is going to be the same. And I can choose any of these points to be x and y. So what I have is I have a center that stays the same at 3, 4. And I have all these different points that are x and y that are the same distance away. So what I can do is think about this is the equation of a circle, but what if I have a different center? So that's where we write this. I get this is going to be h, this is going to be k, and I get this equation, r squared equals x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, and this is your standard form of a circle. And that is what we're going to use when we are going to graph a circle or find the radius or the center of a circle. what we're going to move on to then is a few examples using that standard form, remembering that this standard form, I get the center, which is going to be HK, and I get the radius, which is going to be R. So if I start out with this first example, let's go x plus 2 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 16. Okay. Now, if I take a look at the equation, here is x minus h. Here is y minus k. Here is r squared. So I know that I can rewrite the equation to look like the original. I'm going to write it like this. The reason I'm doing that is because the equation should be an x and then a minus the h. That's what we're looking for, that exact thing. So here I have an x minus a negative 2. So in this case, h is going to equal a negative 2. Here I'm looking at y minus k, and I have that. I have a y minus a k, so here k is going to equal a 5. So what that tells me is my center is negative 2, 5. And I know that the equation is r squared, so that is going to be the 16. So r squared equals 16. So in this case, r is going to equal 4. So what I have now is everything in order to graph this circle. So if I'm going through, I can graph the circle, negative 2, 5. So here is negative 2, 5. There is the center. I know the radius is 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I can go up, down, left, and right. Here's the tricky part. You want to do your best at drawing a circle, okay? And that is going to be how we find the equation written in standard form to find the center and the radius. In this next example, what I want to do is this. X squared plus y plus 3 squared is going to equal, let's go, 25. Now, the center is going to be a point, and that point is going to be 0, negative 3, along with what we did over here. Here was x plus 2, so that value is a negative 2. So here it's y plus 3. This value is going to be a negative 3. Just like we did over here, where this value was x plus 2, and then it turned out to be a negative 2, y plus 3 is going to turn out to be a negative 3. So then, getting the radius, r is going to equal 5. I have everything I need to graph it. 0, negative 3 is going to be down here, and the radius is going to be 5. So I count up 5, down 5, right, left, 5, and then do your best to draw. Oh, that's not too good, but you get the hint. That's where we are right now with two things. One, the equation of the circle and how we got it from the distance formula. That distance was the radius, okay, and it was the same throughout. And now we use that to find the center and radius of a circle. Okay. Well, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the graph and then is a point in, on, or outside the circle. Is the point 3, 5 in, on, or outside of the circle? And we'll say this is the circle. X minus 2 squared plus y plus 1 squared is going to equal 36. Now, what a lot of kids will do is they'll try and graph this, okay? They'll say that the center is 2, -1, okay? The radius is going to be 6. So if I graph this out, so if I have this, a lot of kids will draw me a circle that's not perfect, and then they will throw in the 0.35, and then they'll say, ooh, well, that looks like it's on the circle. But then how perfect is my circle? And then really, is this the correct answer? Is it on? Is it in? Is it out? So one way to do this is by taking the 0.35 and plugging it in. So if I take 3, plug it in for x, if I take 5, plug it in for y, I get this equation. I get 3 minus 2 squared plus 5 plus 1 squared is going to equal 36. Right now, I don't know if it equals 36, so I'm going to get rid of this, but it's going to relate to 36. So if I do this, that's 1 squared plus 6 squared. So that's 1 plus a 36, so that's a 37. 37 is greater than 36. So what this is telling me is that the point is outside of the circle. Okay. Of the circle. Okay. And the reason is, let's think about what 36 represents. 36 is r squared. So if I go through and I know that r squared is going to equal 36, well, take the square root, r is going to be 6. The square root of 37 is going to be greater than the square root of 36. So that means this distance is greater than the radius. So that means the point is going to be outside of the circle. So here are some things to think about for this example. All right. I know this. According to this, greater than, we're going to write these 3 things. So if x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is greater than r squared, we just said this was outside. If x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, it's going to be on. And if x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is less than r squared, it's going to be inside. So these are things to think about as we remember our graphs aren't going to be very accurate. So what can I do to prove that a point is in, on, or outside? And all I do is I go through and I plug it in and then compare. Now we're going to head into our last example of writing the equation of a circle. I want to write the equation of a circle given the center 1, 3 and a point on the circle of 4, 9. Which if I have a center at 1, 3, it's going to be here. I have a point on the circle at 4, 9, that's going to be up here. So basically I have the center, I have a point on the circle, and then I'll have some kind of circle. But that's not too good, so I'm going to get rid of it. So I know that if this is the center, that is going to be h and k. So I'm plugging everything into this equation. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared is going to equal r squared. Well, right now, I know that h is going to be 1 and k is going to be 3. So that gives me x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals r squared. So I know that's going to be part of my final answer, this part of the equation right here, but what I want to do is I got to figure out r squared. So if I'm going to figure out r squared, that is where this point comes in. I'm going to plug 4 in for x and 9 in for y. So what that gives me is it gives me 4 and 9 that I'm plugging in. And I already have 1 and 3 right here. So what this gives me is that'll be a 3 squared plus a 6 squared equals r squared. So that's 9 plus 36 equals r squared. So that is going to be 45 equals r squared. Now I don't have to figure out what r is because the equation has me just finding r squared. And r squared is 45. So if I go back to this line right here, I get my final answer of x minus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared is going to equal 45. And that is going to be the equation of the circle. That is it. If you have questions, either send me a reminder or send me an email. You can also rewatch the video again, but try out the homework and hopefully I'll see you soon.